Tonight's big stories. The government walks back on its statement on the June 17 ramming incident in Ayungin, now saying that China deliberately prevented the resupply mission and that it was not a mere accident.
Suspended Bamban Mayor Alice Guo gets kicked out of her political party amid alleged ties to illegal pogos in her town and possibly even the one in Porac, Pampanga.
And we will be speaking with DICT Undersecretary Jeffrey E&D later on about the recent spate of hackings involving both private companies and government websites.
Welcome to the big story. I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The government backtracks on its earlier statement that the June 17 encounter in Ayungin was an accident. Today, Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro emphasized it was a deliberate act by China.
This contradicts the palace's earlier statement that the clash was a mere misunderstanding. But what the government remains consistent on is its stand that China's actions cannot be considered an armed attack.
Still, President Marcos tells the AFP that the Philippines will not yield its maritime domain. He notes, though, that the Philippines is not trying to instigate a war. Maricel Halili with a big story.
We see the latest incident in Ayungin not as a misunderstanding or an accident. It is a deliberate act of the Chinese officialdom to prevent us from completing our mission.
Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro himself said the June 17 incident where the Chinese Coast Guard rammed Philippine boats and pointed bladed weapons at Filipino soldiers was not a mere accident or misunderstanding. Teodoro's statement goes against the earlier comments of Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin on the incident.
This was probably a misunderstanding or an accident. We are not yet ready to classify this as an armed attack.
Bersamin made this statement after a meeting with the National Maritime Council at the Palace. It is the Council's job to give recommendations to the President on policies concerning maritime domain issues. Videos from the incident clearly showed how the Chinese Coast Guard swarmed our troops at Ayungin show last week. But despite 8 Philippine Navy personnel being injured, including one who lost a finger, the Palace made a statement that it was just an accident. However, earlier today, the government backtracked on this statement, with Secretary Teodoro making it clear that the Defense Department is not downplaying China's aggressive behavior in the West Philippine Sea. Based on their final assessment, Teodoro says it appears that China's actions against the Philippine Navy were deliberate.
It was an aggressive and illegal use of force. It is a deliberate act of the Chinese officialdom to prevent us from completing our mission.
The question now is, why is there a disconnect between the statements of Secretary Teodoro and the earlier statement made by Executive Secretary Bersamin?
That was a preliminary assessment at the time, but after the trip of the President to Palawan, nag-firm up na yung conclusion na talagang deliberate incident.
Despite this, the National Security Council maintains that China's aggressive actions cannot be considered as an armed attack.
Definition ng armed attack, it is the use of military force and excessive mass use of force that could trigger collective self-defense. Even doon sa Article 51 ng UN Charter at saka doon sa MDT, hindi siya magpo-fall sa definition ng armed attack. But the PRC violates a lot of domestic and international laws.
The AFP notes that despite what happened, RORE or resupply missions to Ayungin will still continue. However, the President ordered that schedules of these missions will no longer be announced to the public.
In this regard, we will continue our rotation and resupply missions on a regular basis. The welfare of our troops in the BRP Sierra Madre being a matter of utmost importance. The President has reiterated that we will not publish schedules of any RORE.
The government is also looking to summon Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Wang Shilian, over the incident. But for now, the Foreign Affairs Department says it continues to pursue bilateral mechanism between the Philippines and China.
And now we are, it's just that there are certain possibilities of us meeting again sometime in the near future. But this is to complement what has been done. And it is a very important aspect, is really the diplomatic front.
Yesterday, President Marcos visited Westcom in Palawan, where he reiterated that the Philippines will not yield to any foreign power.
Kailanman ay hindi tayo magpapasupil at magpapaapi kahit na kanino man. I salute the 80 officers and troops who sailed the waters and exercised the greatest restraint amidst intense provocation.
Marcos noted, though, that the Philippines will not instigate a war. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
And like that report said, while schedules of resupply missions will no longer be announced as ordered by the president, the Navy clarifies that these operations will continue. Navy spokesperson Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad said this in an interview with our sister program sa Totoo Lang.
Ito ay mandato ng ating armed forces, ng ating Philippine Navy, and we don't have to seek permission or get anybody's consent. We will continue operating wherever international and domestic law allows us to. Itong Partido Komunista ng China, ito ang himasok sa atin. Yung mga I call them the agents of aggression. So they have no right to demand anything. Dapat sila umalis sa ating exclusive economic zone.
In that same program, Trinidad said that the AFP's transparency initiative is still in place, though members of the media may not be allowed to join maritime missions to the West Philippine Sea at all times.
May mga times na I believe papayagan, may mga times na hindi. Ganun pa man, the transparency initiative ay nagpapatuloy din. It is to expose all the illegal, coercive, aggressive, and deceptive actions of the Chinese Communist Party sa ating exclusive economic zone. Ilalabas natin yon para malaman ng buong mundo anong ginagawa nila.
Well, moving over to politics, suspended Bamban Mayor Alice Guo has been expelled from the Nationalist People's Coalition following her alleged links to illegal pogos. Party chairman, former Senate President Tito Soto ordered Guo's removal in a letter to NPC's provincial chairperson, Governor Susan Yap. The letter stated that the NPC will not tolerate any unlawful acts or appearance of impropriety that will undermine the principle of the party. Soto said Guo's expulsion came after due consultation with leaders and party members. The gravity of charges against the Bamban mayor were also taken into consideration. Aside from this, Mayor Guo is also being linked to the illegal operations at Lucky South 99 in Porac, Pampanga. The Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission, or PAOC, together with Senator Win Gatchalian, led today's inspections, and they had this to say.
Itong koneksyon ni Mayora dito sa dalawang pogo ng Bamban at saka Porac ay mas lumilinaw na sapagkat nakikita namin yung kanyang digital footprint. Sasampahan na po natin siya doon sa Bamban. May posibilidad po na masampahan siya sa Porac. Lumalabas na ito si Mayora ay isang primary enabler.
Based sa mga information, meron siyang connection dito. Hindi lang namin masabi pa in detail, no, ongoing, but ang masasagot ko lang yung mga kausap niyang tao, nakita rin dito sa Pogo Hub na ito. So that's the link that we are referring to.
PAOC says they do have enough evidence to file or issue an arrest warrant for to Mayor Alice Guo for being a Pogo enabler. And apart from that, they have also filed qualified human trafficking case against her.
Yes, yun yung kaso ng PAOC against Mayor Alice Guo or suspended Mayor Alice Guo. I think they filed those charges on Thursday last week. And I'm expecting na mas marami pang mapafile because ito na nga, no, she got kicked out of the NPC as per the suggestion, as we hear, no, from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian to the party leadership kay former Senate President Tito Soto, and I think nag-agree na nga yung party na.
I think that's the answer to our question kung anong liability ng LGU when it comes to allowing those franchises that have been revoked to continue. This time, parang enabler ang tawag. Pero hindi lang si Mayor Alice Guo ang
dawit dyan, no? Marami pang iba.
Dahil pati ang Porac Mayor na si Jaime Jing Capil ay nako, yun ang pinapasuspinde ni Senator Sherwin Gatchalian.
That's right. Isa pang dawit dyan, of course, ito yung pumutok last week. As we know, yung executive assistant ni former presidential spokesman Harry Roque, dawit rin siya dito. Ang daming meme na lumabas noon, pero actually seryoso ito kasi dinadawit nga rin sila. In fact, may mga papeles signed by former palace spokesman Harry Roque na nahanap din doon sa Pogo. Of course, on top of, although nilinaw nga nung CIDG na yung mga PLA na mga uniforms that they found mukhang souvenir lang naman daw. Kasi nakakatakot din yun eh. Yun yung sinasabi nila na baka daw may mga spy na dito.
And speaking of this inspection nga na they had, no, ang suggestion pa ng PAOK, syempre kasi 46 buildings ba naman dito sa Porac, Pampanga.
May swimming pool pa and golf course.
Anong gagawin natin dyan?
Pwede daw i-convert into a school. So this is 10 hectares of land. So might be a what plausible suggestion.
How do they procure that? And how would that work?
How would that work?
Diba? Hindi ba siya parang evidence yung buong property na yun right now? I guess we'll find out more no kung magpapan out yung mga suggestions.
If you think about it, this is a strategic move by the NPC because we do know the elections are coming up. And there's a whole lot of debate on whether Mayor Alice Go will be allowed to run again. Alam ko kasi kailangan may conviction to not be allowed, and depende pa yun sa kaso mo.
Correct. At saka pwede pa i-appeal, di ba? So may mga certain, I think, convicted people na nasa appeal stage pa who are still in government naman. So that's the way our justice system rules. But you're right, Gretch. A lot of people are saying, could this be the NPC, the political party, clearing ranks ahead of next year's midterm elections?
Speaking of our justice system, former Senator Laila De Lima is now free of all drug charges against her. That's after the Muntinlupa RTC Branch 206 cleared her of her third and last remaining charge, which is conspiracy to commit drug trading. In the decision, presiding Judge Henerhito says the prosecution failed to prove that De Lima is guilty beyond reasonable doubt. And with that, Hito granted De Lima's motion for demurrer to evidence, which effectively dismissed the charges against her. De Lima says the decision made her feel free and vindicated. She also thanked everyone who supported her in her legal battle that spanned for almost 7 years.
Napakalaki po ng ginhawa at saya ang nararamdaman ko ngayon. The grant of our demurrer to evidence, which is tantamount to acquittal, that means I am now completely free and vindicated. It's very na tumutok sa mga kaso ko. Salamat po. At sabay-sabay pa nating tutukan ang paniniguro na mababayaran ng mga abusado sa kapangyarihan at mga umalipusta sa mga karapatang pantao.
Demurrer to evidence, in simple terms, insufficient evidence. As we know, kung ikaw yung nag-aakusa, nasa sayo rin, no, napatunayan. It's up to you to prove the guilt of the person that you are accusing. But as of now, the Justice Department, I believe, is still thinking or mulling over whether or not they will appeal.
Pero sa kabilang banda, masaya naman daw sila dito sa naging desisyon ng korte. At sabi nga ni Prosecutor Romancito Ocampo from the DOJ, we are very happy for the good senator. She was our former boss and we don't lose our respect even if we are on the other side of the fence, but it is our duty to prosecute.
And this afternoon nga, no, nag-tweet din to si former Senator Laila De Lima. She actually tweeted, "My heart is full with all the love pouring today. Today is a day of sweet and just freedom." And she ended it in Bicolano, saying, "Diyos babalos." So usually this phrase translates to, "Thank you, God." Yes. But it also means sometimes, the direct translation rather, is actually God will repay or God will return the favor.
Naalala mo, pagkalabas niya, yun ang unang ginawa niya, parang pumunta siya sa simbahan.
Oo, nagdasal siya muna. Pero ito kahit na I know she's overflowing with gratitude and love and all of that, meron pa rin siyang mensahe para kay former President Rodrigo Duterte. Pakinggan natin.
Kay Ginoong Duterte, kayo ngayon ang mananagot sa mga kasalanan niyo sa taong bayan. Isa lang po akong biktima. Libo-libo mga Pilipino ang pinaslang nila nung nakaraang madugo at peking war on drugs.
6 months to the election period, and there are so many pivotal moments happening. Sabi nga, after President Bongbong Marcos won, pundits were saying that this is actually a low-lying fruit to have the former senator released. So I wonder if it has anything to do with the upcoming elections, apart from, of course, obtaining justice.
Well, we'll see. As we know, she is heading the Liberal Party, and for now, all our usual questions, isa-isang nasasagot. One, mukhang nag-no na talaga si former Vice President Leni Robredo, instead choosing to run for Mayor of Naga.
Dineclare niya na ba yun, Mayor of Naga daw?
Parang ganun na nga yung lumalabas, di ba? I think medyo natanggap na nating lahat, pero meron pa mong question marks, right? Like Senator Kiko Pangilinan, andyan pa rin sino ba yung nakausap natin? Si Attorney Chel Diokno. Sabi niya, hindi ba daw niya sure, humihingi pa raw sila ng sign.
Pero hindi yan yung oposisyon eh. Mukhang si Sara Duterte na daw.
Well, that's not what the former Senator De Lima said. She said hindi daw pwede na si Sara Duterte ang opposition. So tignan natin how the opposition will shape up or kung ilang opposition ang...
Seems like forces are being realigned at this point.
For sure.
Oh, we'll see how everything will unfold before the midterm elections next year. But for now, up next, the DICT is now investigating the alleged data breach affecting the country's largest food conglomerate, Jollibee Foods Corporation. We'll talk more about this probe with the agency's Undersecretary, Jeffrey D., when we return. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
The NBI has announced that it is preparing to subpoena Manila Bulletin tech editor Art Samaniego in connection with alleged hacking incidents involving private companies and government websites. NBI Deputy Spokesperson Attorney Shawn Michael Dangilan said the subpoena is based on an extrajudicial confession made by an arrested IT officer from the Manila Bulletin. The IT officer claimed that he hacked the websites under Samaniego's direction. Samaniego has denied the allegations, asserting his long-standing partnership with government agencies in cybersecurity. The Manila Bulletin, on the other hand, stated that it has always adhered to the laws of the land and requires its employees to be law-abiding.
Tayo rin naman, interesado tayo kung talagang may participation or wala, o ano yung mga defenses na ipuput up nila. It's hard to fathom or hard to think na parang you would do this, your hacktivism, para lang ho, kasi ang allegation, para na mauna siya sa scoop sa balita, allegation eh. So that would be very, very irresponsible.
Still on hacking incidents, the DICT has confirmed that Jollibee's data has been found on the dark web. Paraiso said Jollibee's corporate head reached out to them regarding the hacking incident on their website. Cybersecurity group Deep Web Connect has also earlier alleged that hackers were selling the information of Jollibee's 32 million customers in forums for over $40 million. According to the National Privacy Commission, the data breach at Jollibee Group has affected 11 million data subjects across the conglomerate's brand.
Kanina lang, nag-usap na ho kami nung head ng isa sa mga corporate heads ho ng Jollibee. Okay. Kasi nangyari ho to Friday. Nagkaroon tayo ng report, pinalo up ng DICT. Nakita naman ho natin sa dark web na talagang may mga datas from Jollibee na nandun na sa dark web. Contact numbers and addresses nandun ho. Kaninang umaga, ang Jollibee nag-reach out to ask for help from DICT. In fact, last Friday, they made it known to the DICT na nag-file na sila na report sa NPC, National Privacy Commission, because this particular incident involves data breach.
Let's discuss these matters further with the DICT Undersecretary Jeffrey E&D, who joins us live in the studio. Good evening, Yusek. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Yusek, hindi na po ko kunwari, pero sa totoo lang gulat na gulat kami dito sa aming newsroom because we used to have Art Samaniego guesting on our shows. Just a disclaimer on that. Probably not just us, but we were quite surprised over the news that came out in the weekend. I mean, what led to that expose, and what do we know?
Well, to be honest, I was with Art in Cybersecurity Week in Israel. It's a government event, and I think whatever it is that Art will have to face right now, that does not discount many things that he also did for the furtherance of cybersecurity in the country. That said, I've seen the discussions we've discussed this with the NBI, this case. I think the NBI has an airtight case against them, so I would advise that Art prepares for his defense.
What are the policies when it comes to vulnerability tests? Because yun nga, parang that is the cover.
Yes.
For hacking,
good
quote-unquote, right?
Good question, Gretchen. And thank you for asking that, because there's a lot of activists who think that what they're doing is harmless. Remember that there is a law against illegal access of computer devices. And there's also a law against intentional data breach, or trying to get data. Anytime you try to get personally identifiable data and release it to the public, that's already illegal. If you reshare it again, it's again illegal.
Okay, but Yusek, what if I was a company and I did ask some white hat hacker or anyone capable to do it? In that case, okay lang naman yun.
In that case, okay lang yun.
Basta malinaw.
May mga professional penetration testers talaga, and they earn a lot of money doing that. Pero ang magic word kasi doon, Shawn, is that there is consent. There is actually a contract that you hired me.
It's an actual business deal, the usual with makapal na kontrata, maraming pahina.
That's correct. And I actually, I would even advise companies to do that. Better have a controlled environment, someone professional, search for vulnerabilities in your own website, in your own online assets.
Okay,
before
I have
the others.
Kind of a silly question in relation to that. So kung ganun nga, no, why don't these hackers, like you said, it costs so much to hire someone to try to hack into your system professionally with consent? Are we overflowing with these kinds of people? Kasi kung ganon, ba't di na lang sila pumasok sa ganong klaseng racket?
I don't know what their motivations are. Ang gusto ko lang sabihin is that we need to delineate this kind of, kasi may ethical and unethical practices. The same with, the same with artists as well. No?
Yeah.
So an unethical practice is walang consent, tapos nag-hack ka, kahit vulnerability assessment. And although Art had a previous case na rin, no, with Inquirer 7 about this. So just an advice to anyone who's trying to do this in a controlled environment. There's also a bug bounty program. No, walang paalam, nag-hack ka, pero hindi mo disclose. Okay. Hindi mo pinablish. Sumulat ka dun sa kumpanya, like...
Pwede yun?
Pwede yun. Sulat mo sa kanya, by the way, I'm a legitimate security researcher, I found something. Pero this information is for you, not for the public.
But that can't be used against you. I mean, because you're kind of being a good Samaritan in that case,
well,
right? Libre.
Libre. If I'm the company, I wouldn't do that. But it still can, no? Kasi wala kang paalam in the first place. But we've seen a lot of people do this. 95%, 99% of the time, they don't file cases against this person because that person helped them.
Okay. So Yusek, it's mostly illegal if, yun nga, binibenta rin itong information on the dark web. Dark web is actually a scary place. I haven't been there. I haven't tried visiting it. I don't even know how to go there. Right? But, ayun nga, this information is available there. But what exactly can hackers do with that information?
So, information is information, Pauline. No? Information can be weaponized. For example, how do you think scammers would know that when they text you a scam, they would also know your name? How would hackers know, or scammers would know, that you're actually a client of a particular bank, that you actually have a bank account with that? That's because your data was sold, and these scammers, which are usually syndicates, crime syndicates, have that information, they harvest that information, and they use that against you. That's what we call weaponization of the data.
Well, in this case, which websites were involved with Manila Bulletin's tech editor, Art Samaniego, and which years? Gaano katagal yung data na meron kayo against him, in your case against him?
So, let me just clear, let me just clarify. Art Samaniego is allegedly being included by a revelation by someone alias Kangkong. Okay. Now, si alias Kangkong had hacked banks. Siguro banggitin ko na rin because they should have made the public disclosure anyway. They have data on Security Bank, Philippine National Bank, BDO, Union Bank. They have user accounts, they have passwords.
Wow,
They also have Facebook accounts of certain individuals.
They have access to bank accounts?
They have a list of the user accounts and passwords. We haven't tried to access it to know if they are legitimate.
To money accounts, bank
That's
accounts?
correct.
Oh my gosh.
Accounts, yeah. They also have Facebook accounts. They actually have information about the Bello Medical Group, including their clients. So
that's extensive.
It's very random too. Banks, Bello, fast food chains.
Yeah, because that's the modus operandi of Kangkong. According to him, Art asks him to scan the internet just to look for vulnerabilities, and if they find any, they go in.
But yun nga, which is pwedeng under good Samaritanism.
If they disclose to
Except in this particular case, they published.
Where? In the dark web?
No, they published as an article.
As an article.
In the newspaper, in Manila Bulletin.
That they found vulnerabilities.
Again, if the story is to be believed, again, if the allegation is to be believed.
Kumbaga, ang kapalit is mauna sa scoop.
Mauna
diba yun ang allegation nung naaresto tawagin na natin siyang alias Kangkong.
Yes.
Yung pala yung official name niya. Okay. Yung mas concerning, Yusek, no, yung nagyari nung yung Comelec data breach. Because that one, sobrang complete. If you think about all the data that you have turned over to the Comelec, it's like literally everything, including your fingerprint. Which is so scary. Your wet signature, of course, nung biometrics, diba? There was also some halabaloo, and in fact, I believe that same editor of Manila Bulletin, the tech editor, Mr. Art Samaniego, was also dragged into that mess. But it was sort of resolved. If I'm not mistaken, nagkaroon ng Senate hearing.
Correct.
And ang lumalabas is, kumbaga, mas grabe yung nai-report niya sa dyaryo kaysa dun sa totoong, kumbaga, gravity ng breach. Can you confirm that?
Well, I don't have that exact data about Comelec, no? But you know how it is. Sometimes mas malala nga yung nare-report because we sensationalize things. However, I don't think in this particular instance it was Art who actually ordered for that breach.
So walang sinabi si alias Kangkong?
Wala namang sinabi si alias Kangkong tungkol sa Comelec. We also have other suspects for Comelec.
That's right. We're so focused on this one, right? Because I guess for us, we all have spoken to Mr. Samaniego at length, multiple times a year. He co-convenes Scamwatch Philippines. He has that advocacy as well. What about the other two hackers? Were they also affiliated with this? Or magkakaibang, kumbaga hindi sila related at all? Itong tatlong na aresto.
So it was believed, again, allegations. Siya nga pala, I would like to commend NBI for doing all of this. So it is believed that they form a collective. They're part of they are former members of LULSEC. And LULSEC actually came from Anon Philippines or Anonymous Philippines. So these are hacking collectives. So magkakakilala sila, at least by their handles.
Ngayon, so may online grouping sila, ganyan.
That's correct. Tapos nagkita-kita sila, and we have to... This is not only digital forensics, but also human intelligence. Nagkita-kita sila because of the operation of NBI. They tried to find a way na magkita-kita yung tatlo, and then they arrested the three. It just so happened that the others were... Isa lang talaga yung minamanmanan, yung dalawa na...
This is a huge breakthrough. Maybe after everything that we've reported on the news, yung mga scammers na hindi natin mahuli-huli. I mean...
Pero ang tanong is, these people... There's been a huge spate of hacking, breaching incidents. Would you guys have any idea over at the DICT in connection, of course, with NBI Cybercrime, etc., all the other agencies working on it, USEC? Kumbaga, are these people all part of that hacking group, the hacking collective?
So thanks for that question.
Including the Jollibee.
They're not necessarily part of that hacking collective, but they usually have a communication channel that communicates with each other. No, some think that they are hacktivists. There's for example, where we're looking for one suspect, PH1NS, who's responsible for DOST, who's responsible for PNP, who's also responsible for some other, even the private sector attacks. So we're continuously building our case. It's really hard to...
And sometimes it can take years. Some of these cases are years.
Well, there have been allegations na galing pa sa China, yung mga hacks.
There was one last February where our government mail exchange system was attempted, and we attributed that to APT, or Advanced Persistent Threat Group 41, which are known to be Chinese. Chinese APTs.
Yusek, just going back to dun sa dark web, no? How did the DICT become aware na yung Jollibee data nga was in the dark web?
So we have sensors. We have scanners that scan everything from the surface web to the dark web. Nakita yon. plus pinublish ni Dark Web Connect, no, which is another, may mga alias din sila, no? We have suspects who they really are, but we don't. Suspects pa lang. But after that, ang maganda naman, Jollibee did inform NPC. Because remember, this is also a reminder. If you have a data breach, you are mandated by law to report within 48 hours that you had a data breach. That's first. And then second, you are mandated by law to inform all people that was included there. In this case, it's sabi ni Jollibee, 11 million. They should inform that individually. Each and every one of them.
But they did ask USEC for a 20 days extension. Do we know why they need an extra 20 days? For, I think they said, internal investigation.
Well, I guess it's 11 million is still a very, it's very extensive.
USEC, how can people protect their data? I mean, it has been brought up na change your passwords regularly, diba? Or
two-factor authentication.
Two-factor, yan, mga OTPs. But, diba, how...
There are some information, let's delineate the type of information you have. There are some information which, if you have a human-to-human interaction, you should never, ever give out. Example, the back of your credit card. At the back of your credit card, there's a 3-digit code that's called a CVV or CVC, depending kung anong klaseng credit card mo. You're not supposed to give that to a person-to-person transaction. If somebody calls you and asks for your 3-digit code at the back of your credit card or your ATM card, never. Okay. The same with your OTP. Yung pinapadala sa text mo na code, never give it out. If it's a human-to-human interaction, somebody called you up and said, oh, by the way, I would like to verify who you are by sending you a code. Can you give me what the code is? Don't.
There are some instances where you have no control. For example, as you mentioned, the bank account details were hacked and gotten by these hackers. Paano naman yun? Anong laban? I mean, una-una na-inform ba ng mga bangko na binanggit nyo kanina? Yung mga customers nila? And as a bank customer, should I change my passwords every month? Every so often? How often?
To be fair naman, the bank does prompt you to change your password. But there's also a button where you can waive it.
Parang every 3 months pa siya.
Every 3 months.
There are certain banks that require you to change it every 3 months.
Or some that will remind you, then you can waive it.
That's a good question, Gretchen. So these things, no, itong nahuli natin, they did this back in 2019 to 2021. So there's a good chance that you already changed your password. Unless you keep reusing your old password back in 2019 to 2021, there could be a problem. But right now, I think, alam niyo may audit features lahat ng mga bank. It's a BSP requirement that all bank online sites actually have an audit mechanism where we can check kailan ba ako last nag-login? And then we regularly check it. And then if there seems to be a suspicious activity there,
ibabalik naman sa'yo yung pera.
Medyo ibang usapan pa yun, ha? Pero pag may nakita ka na suspicious login, change ka na muna ng password. You know?
So always change your password.
Pero insured ba kami? Yun talaga. Mamaya tatanong natin.
Ibabalik ba yung pera? I think that's a better question for our next guest. No? Pero just to wrap everything up, Yusek, ano ba talaga? Where do we stand right now with these arrests, this current arrests? Are there more forthcoming?
Yes.
Meron pa ba kayong ibang minamanmanan? And once nahuli na tong mga, kumbaga, nasa top nung suspected list natin, can we expect na babawas na tong mga incidents? Or is that just wishful thinking? Kasi kaya parang habulan to.
And are we getting better at catching
We're getting better.
hackers?
That's definitely happening. Are we at par with our regional counterparts? Maybe not yet, but we are getting there. Yes, siguro kayo lang nag-interview sa akin, sinabi ko, yes, we're also casing additional individuals. Not only with the NBI, but the Philippine National Police Anti-Cybercrime Group. They also are casing a group of people that are responsible for the recent hackings. Remember that PNP EVehicle was a very large data breach, and so they have a personal stake here, no? And they're casing.
With the Jollibee data breach, what information?
So that's
I think it's early days yet, but do we know anything about that?
Yeah, well, it's used. Ang sabi nila, it's customer accounts, user accounts. We're still checking it. The problem naman with the private sector is that they don't have to have any mandatory reporting mechanism to us. So if they want us to help them, they'll ask us. Unlike government, kasi we have. Yes, we filed the cybersecurity law in Congress. And it's similar to all other countries. No? We have to have the correct statistics for hacking because the public needs to be informed.
Is that going to pass?
I think so. We have the commitment of Congress, but you know, I will. I pray to the gods of Congress.
We are with you there. Kasi ang hirap mag-memorize ng maraming password.
Just as we said, this is a huge milestone, I think, for our crackdown on these hackers. Exposing their identities, I'm sure, would scare off those who are attempting, and we do hope for more success on that. And something that we have clear now, yung may ethical, unethical na hacking.
You can use your talents for good or for bad. Ang choice ay nasa sayo. You can earn money both ways.
Maraming salamat for joining us tonight. We have the ICT Undersecretary not Ivan Januin, Jeffrey Ian D.
Alright, pahinga muna tayo. We're going to be taking a really quick break, but right after that, as promised, we will be speaking with BPI's Chief Sustainability Officer, Eric Luchanco, on their initiatives to adopt stronger and sustainable practices in banking. Stay with us.
You're still watching the big story here on One News.
Over in the corporate front, we rarely touch this front, but today we are. The Bank of the Philippine Islands, or BPI, is working on expanding the share of its sustainability initiatives in its overall lending portfolio. The Ayala-led bank said more than half of their portfolio is already linked to sustainability initiatives, although the company still sees room for growth. BPI is currently holding its annual Sustainability Awareness Month with the theme Beyond Green. The month-long campaign offers activities geared toward empowering businesses and the public to adopt sustainable practices and lifestyles. And here to talk about the Sustainability Initiative Beyond Green, we have with us BPI's Chief Sustainability Officer, Eric Luchanco. Eric, thank you for making the time.
Yeah, no, good evening, and thanks for having me here.
Okay, let's talk about why a bank would be so into sustainability.
First
and foremost.
I think in many ways sustainability is a choice that we make, right? You can, I think, similar to you can choose how to use the information that you were talking about earlier. Sustainability is a choice, as in, is it something that you want to do or not? And I think BPI has really been committed to its sustainability journey. I mean, we started down this journey formally as far back as 2008, before sustainability was really kind of a buzzword that it is today. But we started on that, and we've been making progress along that journey since that time. And it's something that's important to us, not just for us to do, but something that we can share with our customers and our clients as well.
You're absolutely right. It is a buzzword. And a lot of people in the past would say, hindi, greenwashing lang yan. Right? So tell us why you are not greenwashing, and tell us exactly how your bank clients can feel your sustainability efforts over at BPI.
Well, there are many ways, right? And so when we interact with our clients, we try to share with them the experiences that we've been through. So, for example, BPI has converted all of its corporate centers, three key buildings, to receive only renewable energy. We've made the conversion of our branches to become EDGE certified branches, which means that they're determined to be have savings in terms of electricity, in terms of water usage, in terms of the materials that they use. And because of that, we've enjoyed certain benefits from it, right? And so we try to share that experience with our customers and tell them how they can also share, or how they can also enjoy the benefits that sustainability has brought to us. And for us, we really think of it as, I guess it's a journey for us, and it is kind of a mission for us as well, right?
When you say savings in terms of adopting renewable energy into your corporate offices, what do you mean by that? Savings in terms of
operational costs.
Yes. In terms of adopting renewable energy, that's not so much about cost savings. I mean, we do engage so that solar or wind power is supplied to us. And that's what we use in terms of our energy consumption. But I guess the savings I was talking about is more like, for example, with our EDGE certified branches, because the EDGE certification requires that you use lower consumption electricity, lower consumption light bulbs, lower flow faucets, and therefore you have savings out of that.
How about in terms of your portfolio? What sustainable initiatives have you added?
In terms of our portfolio, if you look at our portfolio all across the board, we have sustainability-linked loans that we've extended, right? And I think it was mentioned that over 50% of our portfolio is linked to various sustainability initiatives. So that's, it's in terms of renewable energy, it's in terms of sustainable agriculture. So all across the board, whether it's energy savings or climate resilience.
Give us one, just to help us envision everything. Can you give us your favorite use case or example? It could be anything. It could be the slow flow faucets, the energy saving light bulbs.
Because when you talk about sustainability, it's such a broad term. We want to understand it in practical terms. What do you mean when you say go sustainable?
Well, it's hard to identify any one single project, but gosh, there are really so many. But
off the top of your head, just a favorite one that you would tell someone because it maybe exhibits or shows in the best and most simple way possible.
Well, okay.
The impact of your initiatives.
And so maybe in terms of our own experience, right? When we converted our air conditioners, so the old BPI head office had, of course, old air conditioning systems, and when we converted it into the modern air conditioning systems, we saved so much electricity, over 1 million pesos a month in electricity savings. And we saved so much electricity that Meralco actually sent somebody over to check if there was something wrong with the meter in our building, right? Because that's how much the savings were. And that's some of the kind of savings that, or the benefits that we try to share with our customers, saying, we did this, we think it's going to be very helpful to you. And we try and guide them down the process of doing that.
Would it translate, for example, on giving a loan to a company that is like-minded in a way? For example, it's an e-bike or an EV company. Are you willing to, are more willing, or are there maybe better terms if such a company takes out a loan with BPI?
Yeah, and I think not just companies, on a retail level, we've launched our e-vehicle loan solutions. And what we've done for these is, so typically most auto loans only go up to 5 years, but for e-vehicles, we've decided to extend that to 6 to 7 years. And so far, we've done, since we've launched the program last year, we've done over 2 billion in terms of loans extended for
These are
e-vehicles.
retail loans?
Retail loans.
Just for e-vehicles?
Yes.
2 billion?
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Eric, as you mentioned, it has been a journey for BPI. It started in 2000s. But what were some of the challenges or lessons that you've learned along the way that I guess you could also share with other companies who are looking to promote sustainability as well?
Well, in the early years, when it wasn't a buzzword, you were trying to do a lot of things, and people thought that, I think a lot of people thought that sustainability was just an expensive toy or just something that you did if you had a lot of money. And so one of the challenges that we've had is trying to show them how it benefits them as well. And in fact, at BPI, our philosophy is, we call it ESG plus E2, right? And ESG, of course, refers to environment, social, and governance, which are the typical things that you think of in terms of sustainability. But the E2 for us is to add an economic aspect to it, which is to try and realize how sustainability can really work in your favor, even from an economic perspective, right? And in our view, sustainability that doesn't help you from an economic perspective cannot or will generally not be sustainable over the long term. So the program itself doesn't become sustainable. So you have to find a way for it to work for you as well.
And that's why you've been talking about savings.
Yes.
Because then it becomes a practical adaptation for the company. Talk to us about sustainable loans. How do MSMEs take advantage of the sustainable loans? I know you're giving out loans for solar panels,
yes, that's right,
for homes, right?
That's right.
So apart from that, what else do you have?
So we have, it's not just solar panels, and I think for many smaller companies, one of the potential uses is to actually save, to engage, to like install energy saving lights or to low flow faucets or other forms of lower
anything
usage.
that you'd like to, if you want to convert into being more sustainable across the board, then BPI is there to help.
Yes, and in fact what we do is we provide technical consultants that help them identify how much savings you can generate out of doing something like this. So if you were to take a loan from us, here's how we think you should do it, right? You change these lights, you change these faucets, and that's how you're going to save money. And the amount that you're going to be paying in interest for this loan will actually be paid for by the savings that you will have.
We might need it here. In big companies like here, okay, that would totally work. But I understand a lot of MSMEs are also your clients. Most of our businesses around here, 90% I think fall under MSMEs. How can they avail or benefit from your sustainability journey?
But even that, right? I mean, you say, okay, maybe it's a small company and they can't say, we can't be sending technical consultants to every small company. But by this time, we already have certain formulas, right? Oh, how big is your space? What kind of light bulbs are you using now? And then we have a general idea already of how much savings they can generate, how much of a loan they would need to take out. And we provide them with that information to make the journey easier for them.
Okay, so what's in store? Really last question, because I can see we're running out of time, as that sign says. What can we look forward to from your department?
Well, I think from our perspective, and again, we engage in this Sustainability Awareness Month to really try and share the journey that we have with other people, right? To kind of broaden how widely sustainability is understood. That's what we're trying to do with this Sustainability Awareness Month. And through the course of the rest of this month, we'll be continuing to engage in such activities. But of course, that mindset doesn't end with this month, right? It'll continue onwards.
Okay, so I guess like-minded individuals can now bank with BPI and sleep soundly, knowing that their bank of choice, practices the same principles or has the same principles as them. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come over here tonight and talk us through all of that. BPI Chief Sustainability Officer Eric Luchanco, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's go to sports news. Gilas Pilipinas is off to a good start in their preparations for the 2024 FIBA Olympic qualifying tournaments as they defeat the Taiwan Mustangs in their send-off friendly 74-64. Gilas leaned on Dwight Ramos and Justin Brownlee in the third quarter to pull away against the Mustangs. Ramos and Brownlee helped Gilas outscore the Mustangs 21-12 in the third quarter to gain headway in their tune-up game. In the fourth quarter, Taiwan tried to mount a comeback behind Oscar Lopez and Sean McCarthy. But in the end, Gilas proved to be too much as the national team made sure to give a smile to home fans before leaving for Europe to continue their build-up for the FIBA Olympic qualifying tournament. Ramos finished with 19 points, while Brownlee added 12 markers in the win.
Okay, and just before we go, we just want to share this little bit of good news. It's quite pretty too. Time for our big picture tonight. Open spaces in Metro Manila are few and far in between, but changes are slowly being made. A new section of the Pasig River Esplanade is now open, offering more recreational areas along the historic river. President Bongbong Marcos led the inauguration of the Pasig River Esplanade Project Phase 1 in Manila on Sunday. This project is part of the Pasig Bigyang Buhay Muli redevelopment project for Metro Manila's most famous river. The recently finished Phase 1C is a 250-meter stretch linking Jones Bridge to Plaza Mexico at Magallanes Drive. It has a single-story building with wide walkways, commercial spaces, bike lanes, and a rooftop viewing area. There's also a 135-meter boardwalk from Plaza Mexico to Fort Santiago to make it easier for pedestrians to reach Intramuros. Wow, that's from the back way. Now, furthermore, the ground level has over 30 commercial stalls, public restrooms, sewage treatment facilities, and fire protection for safety and convenience.
A lot of netizens are comparing this to the Venice Grand Canal in Italy.
In Italy? Yeah. I thought in Venice and McKinley.
No, in Italy. There are no gondolas or yung mga water taxis, but I think that's the closest we can.
Maybe next time magkaroon lang ng ferry, diba? Yun lang yung wish natin para makakat ng traffic sa EDSA, but
dapat sustainable.
Yes.
Dapat sustainable. Well, did you see that there's bike lanes? There's pedestrian lanes, sewage treatment facilities. Okay, we're gonna stop talking. That's it from us three and the big story for this Monday night.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in and have a good night.